All right, how is everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I want to call today's segment is, if you're looking to get into a relationship, pretend you're already in one. And you may not know what I'm talking about regarding this. That's what I'm going to get into. And so this doesn't mean if you're in a relationship, start looking for other relationships, unless that's what you want to do. That's your business. But what I'm trying to get into on this podcast today is helping men get over a lot of their fears. So if you know anything about me, I have a program called Mastering Self-Confidence. It's the blueprint to try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams. And a lot of people that may sound arrogant to you or whatever, but it's really not what you think. A lot of times when looking at my marketing or whatever, or even the pitch or whatever you think, it's not sometimes what you think. With my program, it's really about building friendships first and relationships. That doesn't mean a relationship that you have to be, as far as a relationship that you end up, moving forward and getting in a serious committed relationship and all that. It's just first really about building relationships and friendships, which most men don't know how to do with women. And I think it's a programming mechanism that men have to almost only be friends, truthfully, a lot of times with other men. They can have a few colleagues that are girlfriends or whatever, but I also think with men, when they start dating women, that other women don't necessarily like that they have friends that are girls. And I also think men get frowned upon if they have a lot of friends that are girls. They're either considered players or they're considered weird, which is absolutely ridiculous. So we're not even going to get into that today. Let's get back to building up your confidence regarding trying to find the right woman, or women for that matter. Doesn't matter, because if you're not in a relationship, my theory is you want to start meeting all different types of women, not just one woman. Because the odds of a woman just walking into a room and that being the one for you for the rest of your life may happen. Most likely it's not the right one. Because I kind of always say it's kind of like a page in a magazine, or pages. You kind of got to flip through the pages to get to the articles that you want to read or the pictures you want to look at, right? And there's a lot of kind of, I can't say shit. I don't mean people are shitty, but there's a lot of things in the magazine that you're really not that interested in. It's kind of like cluttered with a lot of nonsense. So now let's get back to the beginning here regarding, if I've realized this even recently with some of my colleagues, and when they're in a relationship, they seem to have, or not even colleagues, friends, everyone, people that I'm even trying to help, when they were in, or if they're in a relationship, things are very fluent with them talking to other women. And one of the reasons is I think they're very comfortable now and they're not in a desperate situation. So a lot of people I know that are dating somebody, even married, engaged, whatever the case may be, when they're working, for instance, or they're just out in public in general, they can just freely talk to women. And I don't mean the women they're interested in or not interested in. I'm just talking. And they just don't seem to have that desperate edge to them. I call it death spirit. Because most men, I believe, when they're looking to find a woman or try to get in a relationship, they start behaving differently. And I call it death spirit, because it's death. And that goes for women as well. I can always pick off immediately, at least as far as I can see, when women are in a relationship or just kind of got over a divorce or broke up with someone or they're having issues. You can just kind of pick up on all these things. It's kind of common sense, but a lot of people aren't picking up on it. You don't even have to have them tell you. You can just tell by their actions a lot of times if you've been around a lot of women. And I don't think a lot of men have been around a lot of women to a certain degree. They've only kind of, for the most part, they have their family members. And of course, they've dated different women and they've been around women. I shouldn't say they haven't been around a lot of women, but they haven't really built relationships or friendships and been around discussions, I think, a lot of times regarding these things. Because they weren't interested, and I don't blame them either. And a lot of times, even if they were interested, a lot of times maybe women wouldn't come to you regarding these things. But the more women you're around and the more friendships you build, you'll just start picking things off. Same with women picking off men. A lot of women, believe it or not, understand men a lot more than you think they do. They have a different keen sense. I don't know what type of instinctual thing is, but they know when men are desperate on a drop of a dime. They know if they're secure with themselves a lot of times. Now, some women can get fooled. Don't get me wrong. Anybody can be fooled. But for the most part, women, I think, have their senses. Men are more about action, more about, I call them hunters, because they're kind of hunting. They're more like, not a deer in headlights, but they are, if they want to a certain degree, be with women, they're kind of on the prowl. And not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way. And I think women are more scanning, They're scoping. It reminds me of when I was first learning how to drive. I remember my driving instructor said, scan, don't stare. So when you're driving, you got to constantly look left, right. You're looking at your rearview mirror, you're this mirror, and looking in front and behind. And I think a lot of women live that because they live in a different environment. They have to protect themselves differently, I think. And men are kind of straightforward. They're the green light. A lot of times the women are the red light. Men are gas, women are brakes sometimes. Not all of them, but I think to a certain degree. And back to men wanting to be in a relationship, and then, or after being in a bad divorce, breakup, or just being rejected numerous times, their actions kind of get all screwed up, I think. It's almost like I call it a short circuit. They start short-circuiting. They don't really know how to behave, especially in different environments. So I'll just give you an idea. I had a friend of mine. He was actually at the pool. Now, he was in a relationship for a long time, a really wonderful relationship. And I could tell when he's around women or doing things, he can talk to any woman. And he's religious. He's not even hitting on them. It's nothing like that. He just felt very comfortable because he knew he was in a relationship and he was not looking for anybody else. But now when this relationship ended, he obviously, as time went on, he wanted to meet other women. But now his mindset is when he's talking to women, he's scared, especially if it's somebody he's interested in, which makes sense a lot of times because when you meet somebody that you're interested in, you're now like, holy shit, I'm interested in this person. How should I go about? Should I ask for their number? Should I ask them to connect on, Facebook? Snapchat, whatever the hell Instagram, all these things are kind of floating in your head. Like, do I make the move now with that? Do I wait? All these different things. And here's the thing. If you just, again, sit back and relax and just talk to this woman or women as if they are just a friend, a colleague right now, and I talk about this in my program a lot. You want to, because it's very similar to what most women do, they slip a lot of men into the friend zone, even though they may give you a phone number. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. You may be in situations where it gets hot and heavy, or, things start taking off right off the bat. You go on a date and all of a sudden you're in love, whatever the hell. But a lot of women, I think, are kind of cautious, right? They kind of now want to hook up maybe social media, kind of do a little stalking, ask a few friends now, want to figure this person out a lot of times. Again, not everybody, but men a lot of times could care less, I think. They find somebody they're interested in, and it's like, let's go on a date. Let's start moving forward. And that's not a dig on either side. I hope everybody understands. That's just things that I've seen over the years. Now, you may disagree with me. I get it. But back to my buddy. So he was actually at a pool, and he saw a very beautiful woman, and then he was texting me. He said, Rich, because I'm helping him with some things, and he said, Rich, there's a beautiful woman here at the pool. What should I say? And I was thinking, when he was in a relationship, he'd have no problem speaking to anybody at the pool. But now he sees somebody attractive, regardless if they're attractive or not. What is paralyzing him, I call it, which stops you from kind of just even starting a conversation? Like, why can't he? I understand, and here's the thing, I'm going to get into that later. Opening is one of the hardest things with a woman, meeting a woman that you're interested in. If you realize if there's a woman that you're not interested in, and that could be even somebody who works in a fast food restaurant, Starbucks, or just walking anywhere if they need help or anything, you've got no problem really talking to them. Most men, if you think about it. But as soon as you see somebody that you're attracted to, that you think can reject you, now you freak. Because your ego's involved or whatever the case may be, and I get it. So opening is very hard. But the easiest open, and this is just saying hello or offering something, not where it's weird though. So for instance, I said, he's like, what should I say to her? And I said, hey, ask her if she's thirsty. It's like 85 degrees. We live in Florida. Just say, hey, I'm going to grab, a water. Would you like one? It could be that simple, if you're just sitting next to her. I think he used that and she said, no, thank you. But the thing is, it started a conversation, which it kind of should. Now, if she has absolutely no interest in you, and you got to pay attention. If she's like, no, thanks. You could tell by somebody's actions. But a lot of times, if you're at the pool and another girl's by herself at the pool, just say hello and then start a conversation. It could be about anything. I mean, I wouldn't start getting into her bikini or wanting to put cream on her body or being real, ridiculous. But there is a way of opening and still being cool. And then and then he was kind of paralyzed. He goes, then what do? I says, you ask her if she's new, because you've never seen her there. Just ask her straight up. Are you new around here? And, hey, I don't know if you can hear this in the backdrop. It's raining. I'm sorry, I don't always have perfect audio, but it is raining outside, so you may start hearing raindrops. Anyways. But yeah, so I said, just start a discussion, something similar to that. And she says, I just moved in with my boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And then he hits me back. He goes, she's got a boyfriend. I said, that's perfect. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, she's telling you right off the bat that she is with somebody. For one, who knows if it's true or not, because she wants to make sure she's protected. She's sitting at a pool with you by herself. Who knows if you follow her to her place? Who cares about that right now? Your whole thing is to build a friendship with her, because I can assure you, if she's beautiful, most likely she has a lot of beautiful friends. And people got to realize, when you meet someone, it's not just about that person. It's about the other people they know. Right? I mean, that's kind of common sense, but a lot of men don't think that way when trying to find or be in a relationship with a woman. It's cut and dry with them a lot of times. You got a boyfriend? And that was his mindset. Especially younger people are like, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, okay. And then it ends. And the woman can picks that off in a minute. And again, she may be saying that, but a lot of times, again, the way they say it can be a way of saying, hey, being respectful. Hey, I have a boyfriend. We just moved here. But the conversations can still go forward. But again, it's not about her necessarily. You could be like, you just moved here. There's some really good restaurants here I'd recommend. Or you and your boyfriend should go do this. Or be on the cooler side of things. Actually be happy that she's in a relationship. Because if you're cool, most likely she is going to vouch for you. Like I just told you. Most women, like I said, have a lot of friends. And you know what? Here's another thing. 4 or 5 years down the line, it could be 6 months. You may run into this girl again in the apartment at the pool, and guess what? She's not in a relationship. Right? So think about those type of things. Also, don't be shocked a lot of times if women kind of throw different things out there. So a lot of times a woman will say they're in a relationship or they have a boyfriend just to get a feel on how you behave towards that. And that can be even if they have children, or they've just recently been divorced, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of times you have to understand, as a man, the way you're acting or reacting to whatever's going on in that situation has a huge impact of you building a relationship with her, or you maybe possibly being able to ask her out, maybe even not now, but in the future. So now back to the pool situation. So again, it kind of ended, like I said, because he found out she had a boyfriend, which, like I said, a lot of times, here's the other thing I should say. When somebody hits you with something like that, I think that's the best time to learn the most about that person. Because now not everything's on a phony angle bullshit thing, if that makes sense. So a lot of times, if, say, she didn't tell you she was in a relationship, or she was or wasn't, a lot of times, you're just kind of trying to figure someone out, and they're only kind of giving you what they want you to really hear about them. But now, if they're claiming to be in a relationship, which she probably was, now you can start bringing up other things to see how she behaves towards certain things. So, like, even asking her questions about her boyfriend, not being a weirdo, saying, hey, where do you guys go out? Where do you hang out? Where do you work? All these different types of things. Because as time goes on, you can see if she really respects her boyfriend, if she really loves him, how does she, talk kind of behind his back. As time goes on and she gets more comfortable, is she somebody who looks like she's on the prowl, even though she's in a relationship? Is she lying? All these different types of things. So any conversation, I should say, when you get into with a woman, you've got to learn to just be way more open-minded than you've probably ever been, which I know sounds crazy, and learn to listen. I know that sounds crazy too, because a lot of guys, I think, actually don't want to always talk continuously. But again, when they get in that desperate mode, they kind of want to start dropping all the bombs on them, I kind of call them. It'd be like talking and trying to impress a woman a lot of times. And that would be talking about their job, hypothetically. Obviously, in this case, they were both at a pool. They both knew where each other lived. But, it could be what kind of car they drive, who they hang out with, the places they go to, and all these different types of things, which is fine. But back to you not being desperate. That is the number one component, right? And again, when you're meeting somebody you're interested in, or meeting somebody that may introduce you to a lot of other interesting people, you really want to keep it about them, because a lot of times they're going to give you the information you need, right? And you're going to start feeling out what type of person this really is, even including talking about her girlfriends, all these things. Because if she's, again, you're talking about her and her girlfriends, is she coming off as a bitch? Is she talking shit about her friends? Is she very polite? Is she jealous? All this can actually, you could be feeding off of very quickly and learning a lot about this person just in one conversation. It's not just about, a lot of times when you meet a girl that you're interested in, kind of getting the phone number or just kind of going back and forth with some banter or small talk and it really leading to nothing. You want, when you meet a woman or women, is to learn about who they really are, because a lot of times you may make a mistake and take somebody out and really not enjoy yourself. Or this person, again, may be performing and kind of only showing you her good side when you know there's probably a lot of bad. But you can sometimes figure out there's a lot of bad here just in conversations. And I talk about this in my program. It's not about dating right off the bat. I think that's the worst thing you could do. It's not about being a cheapskate. It's about being realistic. When you meet somebody you're attracted to, regardless how beautiful they are, don't think you have to impress them, take them to steak and lobster dinner the next time, if you want to date with them. Actually, I wouldn't even go out on a date with them. I'd meet up with them a couple times. You could do coffee, meet up with you and your friends. You can even say, hey, I work out here. You can meet me at the gym. All these different things to kind of get a feel on what this person's really about. Because if you're going to spend time, it's not even about money or being seen with this person, and then even start, with social media, start taking pictures with this person or having an identity with this person, you really want to protect yourself. And obviously, men, that goes for men and women. So don't think a lot of things I'm saying are just strictly for, men, because that's not the case. But yeah, I really think men, you've got to get the component in the mindset where when you're talking to women, you are as comfortable as talking to a dude sitting next to you about your favorite team. Hypothetically, it could be football, basketball, baseball, or if you're a gamer, your favorite video game, or whatever you're the most comfortable talking about. That's what you want. You want to be that in front of a woman. You don't want to be as very comfortable around men, which is fine, and then all of a sudden you get around a woman and now you're a total weirdo, right? And I think a lot of people are like that. And I get we all have different dispositions, right? We're going to always be different. If I'm obviously talking to my friends at dinner and then I'm talking to my girlfriend, obviously I'm not going to always be talking the same. But as time goes on, you can kind of tell my tone is pretty similar. And maybe just because I'm lazy, but I don't have all these different dispositions. And I think a lot of us get caught up with that and it becomes phony. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I just told you, we all have different dispositions, but here's the thing I did realize lately in my life. I used to have this component where I would, I never swore in front of my mom, let's just say. And then I always swore in front of my dad, like a crazy man. He swears too. And then I would, in a relationship, off and on, a little bit swearing. Around my kids, I never swore. And then, around my friends, I'm always swearing. And then around certain people I don't know, I'm never going to swear because that's not polite, right? Obviously, we have all these things. But then I was like, why am I always having to turn this on and off? Even with my kids, because I know they swear. And my thing was, let me just get to a tone and a style, I guess you could say, of when I'm talking to anyone and everyone, I kind of am still the same person. And my mother's been saying since she's been listening to my podcast, I didn't know you'd talk like that, or you believe that, or you said this. And then same with my father. I'm like, because I never wanted to really do that in front of you or act that way, which sometimes it was the wrong way to act, acting one way around someone and not that way. And I don't, they really don't get a sense of who you are. But when it comes to women and you talking to them, be the most genuine you, because then there's no, it's like the truth. All you really want when you meet somebody is the truth about them, right? And they'd almost be better off, especially if you're dating at the beginning, not putting on the performance, I call it, or doing the interview or the interrogation, just being comfortable in your own skin and kind of giving them the truth, and hopefully they give it back. Even if it works out or not, you kind of were always yourself, and you have your own core beliefs, and you want that person to know that, but that doesn't mean you have to kind of hinder them and say, if you don't believe what I believe, we're going to have problems. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just being yourself and kind of expressing who you are and what your core values are. Not in a corny way. I'm not saying all of a sudden you start dating somebody and you got to get all weird. But just kind of being yourself where you know you're not phony. If you're in front of somebody and you kind of swear a lot or you swear often, I'm not saying you're going to be swearing at her, but you could throw in a couple swear words. Don't pretend like you don't swear is what I'm saying. Don't pretend you're really something you're not. Especially from a financial point of view, even when you first start dating. I know a lot of times you want to impress women. You want to start taking the places and doing things, which are a lot of fun. They also cost a lot of money. If you can't afford that at the time, be honest with them. Because you're not going to bullshit anybody, especially with the car you drive. Eventually, the more you're with somebody, where you live, all these different types of things are just going to blow up in your face. And again, I think that brings a lot of anxiety to a man. Because they're like, how do I pull this off? Especially if she may be beautiful or maybe she's very educated. And I did a video actually not too long ago, is don't let anybody intimidate you, right? Regardless if you date a woman who's a multimillionaire or is executive, down to somebody who is whatever. I don't want to demean anybody else, but somebody else that's kind of more or less struggling. Treat everyone the same and be yourself. People are people, and if you have respect for people and you're genuine, I can assure you most women will respect that more than some guy who's talking a lot of shit. Or even if you're a multimillionaire, you're self-centered, you're arrogant, you're an asshole. I call it an asshole. You ask women things, and then you're kind of an asshole about it. But yeah, all these different type of things. But back to the pretending you're in a relationship, I think a lot of men just sit back, relax. And like I was saying, if you really believe, you don't have to believe it, you're not in a relationship necessarily, but if you kind of were in one, how would your disposition change? And I can assure you, you have different dispositions, obviously, when you're in a relationship. And when you're not, kind of find somewhere in the middle. Because you are still looking for somebody. We get it. And then we understand that you may have been hurt or you've been rejected. And that goes for a lot of women you talk to as well. And back to the last thing I'm going to get into, this is opening. When talking to a woman, opening is the hardest a lot of times because I can't, a lot of people say no, closing and getting the phone number. You don't really even got to go as far as the phone number. You nowadays can say, hey, you on Facebook, you on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever the hell you're on. I don't know if you're on dating apps, whatever the case may be. But opening, because most men lose so many opportunities because they don't have the balls to walk up to who they're interested in. And I will say this about women, the one thing, they blow more openings than anybody because they've been programmed to wait around for a man to pursue them. If you're waiting for anybody, you've lost. I know that was kind of the way of the past where, I got to wait like a respectful young lady. And if he addresses me, then he is interested. If he's not, listen, women too, if you're interested in a man, go talk to him. Don't think it's not easy being a man. It's not easy being a woman. Both of them. Because the man always kind of has to, for the most part, a lot of times, especially if you're in a mall or you're in an environment where nobody's introducing one or the other, or you're in a restaurant or you're at a bar, it's not easy on men because they most likely have been rejected numerous and numerous times. It's anxiety. I'm sure you as a woman, maybe, if I'm talking to women, a woman, it's not easy going up to a random man and just talking to him. But I do think women really are really good with dialogue. So I think sometimes it's easier for them to say, hey, whatever the case may be, hey, I like your shoes, or hey, what type of drink are you drinking? For some reason, it seems to me women are a little easier on the open, but men panic. Because a lot of times they've tried to talk to a woman, they've had their backs turned to them, or like just gave them a dirty look, or just said not interested, or I have a boyfriend, or who the F are you? You know what I mean? Some women are exhausted from, and I get that too, especially, you may be in a nightclub and everybody's hitting on these women. But opening, just learn to be yourself again, and open, just being genuine. You have nothing to lose. And if they reject you, move on. There's 3.5 billion women out there, I can assure you, that a lot of them would like to meet you or talk to you. You just may be running across the wrong ones, or you may not be putting yourself in the right place at the right time around the right women that you're interested in, or maybe the ones that would be interested in you. Okay? So does that make sense? I really preach that in my program is you've got to first figure out what type of women you want, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. And don't be afraid. I don't care what nationality is. It could be black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, if those are the type of women you're interested in, put yourself in those environments because you're going to be more stimulated and excited because you're meeting women that you like to meet. But if you're around a lot of women that you're not interested in, so if you're not interested in, say, a corporate-orientated woman, and you're in business, say, and you're always around corporate-orientated women, and you're just not, that's not the type of woman you're interested in, talking business or somebody who wants to be, whatever it is in the corporate world, you got to remove yourself from that. It's almost like, say, I have no interest in politics, hypothetically. I don't hang out in DC and I don't go to political events or talk politics because I know I just don't have an interest in it. I know that about myself. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't listen to other people out of respect. But what I'm saying is you kind of go to where you're going to be around the people you feel the most comfortable around. All right. Then your opening again is much easier because you're interested a lot of times in what their interests are because that's what you're interested in, if that makes sense. So, if you're not a nightclub dude and you're more of a church-orientated guy, then go to church more often, go to Bible studies, go to Bible camps, go to retreats. If you're in an environment, hypothetically, where you're in a real religious situation and you're exhausted from religion, which I know a lot of my friends were or are, and you want to start hitting nightclubs because that's what's stimulating you right now, then you have to go do that. Don't bog yourself down with a bunch of women that may bore you or that you're not interested in. You may just have to break out and say, I'm interested in this type of girl. I like, this environment. So that's going to change for you as well. So just something to think about regarding that. And closing is, once you learn how to really open, closing is the easiest thing for me. The middle's rough. And I may do a podcast eventually because the middle, again, is the discussion. It's figuring each other out. To keep that conversation going and learning about the person. Because a lot of times, like I was saying at the beginning, when you open, a lot of men get shut down. They're not being shut down necessarily. They're giving some small opportunities. They're giving, like the woman will be like, I have a boyfriend, but, I'm new here. Or I have a boyfriend, but, most likely she has single friends. You've got to learn how to kind of work your way into better situations than just knowing her. That makes sense. So that middle ground is where you really got to, I'm not saying you got to master small talk, but you've got to master understanding how to listen. And then again, at the end, when you connect with her, now when you close, you're not closing saying, hey, I need your phone number to hook up with you. Again, from a social media standpoint, say, hey, let's connect on Facebook and I'd love to meet your friends. Or, hey, you and your girlfriends ever go out? I got a few buddies. Or you and your boyfriend go out. I may, in the future, you may find somebody to go on a double date. Who knows? But again, make friends. Because when you're closing and things are comfortable, that's what's a great close. And a lot of times a girl will be like, hey, thank you. And even offer, like, say, hey, I know you live in the apartment complex. If your boyfriend travels or you're alone, here's my name. If you ever need anything, hit me up. It's not, I have no, you could even say I'm not that interested. I'm not interested in dating or any of that nonsense. But if anything ever happens, I'm kind of here for you. If you even close with that, something very simple, always offering help where it's comfortable, she's going to be like, this is a cool dude. Okay? And then that is only going to help you, and then that's going to help her spread the word to her other friends. And you're going to most likely just kind of blossom from there. But most men don't think that way. Most men, like I just said, they only focus in on the one target, and then they miss the target, and they don't realize there's a million other targets out there. So, alrighty, I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you didn't get offended with the target thing. I don't mean it like offensively. I'm just like to offend people, but yeah. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show, WTF. Are you talking about? If you could, I post this everywhere besides, all the podcast links, iTunes and all of them, but I also post this on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. If you could, leave a comment. If you disagree with me, I respect you. I'd love to hear your opinions. And if you agree with me, hey, wonderful. Like some of my stuff. You can also check out my YouTube channel, The Rich CELENZA Show. I'm sorry, I just screwed that up, and I'm not going to edit it either. I don't edit any of these because I just want to be as fluent and honest as possible. But yeah, I have a YouTube channel, just Rich CELENZA. You can check that out. I also am on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook as well. And again, I have that program I was just talking about, Mastering Self-Confidence. You can just go to masteringselfconfidence.com. And that program is really to help a lot of guys. What I went into today is very minuscule compared to what I go into the program. I have over 45 hours of material to help men. And I have a book you get along with my program, my Wingman book, and both are basically geared around helping men find the woman or women of their dreams. I mean, that's really what it's geared around. And it also has a lot of information on fashion, fitness, hygiene, obviously grooming in there. So I'm finally starting, after doing these podcasts for like 6 months and doing videos, it's starting to finally flow for me. It's taken me a long time because I kind of would go off the beaten trail and forget what the hell I was talking about. I think because I was creating the program, making YouTube, creating a podcast, besides just working and doing all these different types of things, I was also creating an app. So I think my mind was kind of cluttered, but now it's kind of coming out fluently. And I don't want to sometimes come off very arrogant, because a lot of people are like, how the hell do you know how to date? Or what are you, some kind of Casanova or this or that? It's nothing like that. Actually, quite the opposite. Because I grew up in the nightclub industry, and I seen people's behavior and the way they act from a very young age, which I was kind of, I was kind of sickened a lot by it. And some things were cool too, but I just really got a feel of what people truly act like in all different age demographics, starting basically at about 18 years old on. And then I was in the bar business till I was almost 40. So I kind of know a lot about, I'm not going to say the nightclub industry or the bar business. I can't run a bar, or I can't even bartend. But I do know people, for some reason, that in relationships worked really well with me. Because I think I genuinely love people, and I like people, and I want to help people. But I'm able to kind of just, when you grow up in an environment like that, there's so much bullshit and so many lies and deceitfulness and drugs and alcohol. And actually a lot of things too that aren't deceitful also include drugs and alcohol. Because I know a lot of great guys that like doing drugs, and very wealthy guys. Same with alcohol. It's not always bad. But as far as people go, I think I really have a knack for helping men, I would say. But being open-minded to help women as well. But men, I kind of cut through all the bullshit. And again, my program is not a pickup artist style. You can use it, because a lot of stuff I tell you, I could assure you it will work in seconds. And again, that was just me being around so many women my entire life from a young age. And I don't get intimidated by women. And it wasn't because I'm some arrogant asshole. It was just because I was always around a lot of women. With a father owning a nightclub till you're like 14, and then you going into the bar industry, which included gentlemen's clubs, nightclubs, restaurants, everything. It's all about communicating with other people in an environment where there's men and women involved. And it's all about that. So it wasn't like I grew up in, say, another environment where my father owned a cash register store, where all I would be around is people that were involved with that industry or whatever industry. A lot of my family are involved with painting, so they deal with painters, or construction. They would deal with construction. No, I was basically in a bar a majority of my life, nightclub, restaurant, and a lot of that obviously has a lot of women and men dancing and partying and all that. So again, this program isn't to say that you have to take that route by any means, but it did kind of help me master how to do all these things around people, especially talking to men or women. All right. Didn't mean to get long-winded there at the end, but that's kind of just giving you an idea of who I am. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.